So, as usual, as the painting develops, in my case anyway, I put in one area and I see something that can be worked on in another. Anyway, there's a lot of content here. I love how it's going. It's working out well. Now this has become weak because, you don't need a whole lot. And these are going to be horizontal lines, but they need enough oomph to support all of this. So I think what I'm going to do, is lay in a bit of darkness across the bottom of this water. Just not make it all dark. Just sort of, it's kind of wishy-washy. And I think that's the wrong place for things to be wishy-washy. Down here is where things need to be strong. And in a way, everything that's strong is here. So I'm going to play with that. Okay, we'll see. Please make fun of me if you choose. Thanks. So it seems as though every time I do a little more work on the painting, I find more work that needs doing on the painting. But darken this edge a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to go into it until the end. But now I've deluded myself into thinking all I need to do now is maybe make this rock feel more at home. Maybe still a few more highlights in here. That's it. That is it. Well, I'm calling this a finished painting. There are lots of little anomalies here and there, lots of irregularities. When you stand very close to it and you look at certain things, you think, hey, that could be a little bit tidier, or this could be cleaned up, or all those sorts of things. I don't like that. It loses its sense of impressionism then, and I already tend to tighten up too much. So I'm just going to leave it as is, warts and all. All I've really done is painted a great big S. I guess you can see that, eh? I made it a little fancier than a regular S, but it's just a big S. What to say about it really? I've laid in these highlights, a few more, made it a little more interesting. Darkened the bottom. I think that it helped to cradle, this focal area better, more suitably, I should say. And I decided not to run more light off to the right hand side because there's enough strength already doing that. It's a very straight bar with some sort of somewhat interesting lines heading off to the right. I grouped these leaves a little bit, lightened this shadow, brought these lines together so it doesn't look just like cobblestone anymore on the bottom rock. I think this rock is planted more now. Looks more at home. Looks like it can live in its own skin okay. I like this more now. It's pushed back a little bit. I've taken some of these colors, toned them down, and put them behind here on the shady side. I like this line running up like this, instead of only lines going like this, repeating that. I like some opposition. There helps to cradle this. I think I said that already. So, I guess we could just talk about colors in the sky to start with. So you saw what I did earlier in the painting, the sky is yellow, ochre, and white, and then yellow, ochre, white, and cobalt blue, and then yellow, ochre, white, cobalt blue, and ultramarine blue, and then more ultramarine blue, and ultramarine blue with a bit of alizarin crimson and white, ultramarine blue and a little cobalt blue and white, and then ultramarine blue with a little bit of burnt sienna and white. That's the distant blue stuff. We came to these clouds. That's cobalt blue, raw umber, and a bit of white. Fair bit of raw umber. I kept them warm, but I kept them soft because they are on the edge of the painting. I left a little bit of outlining to help to make them distinct from that soft background. this group of clouds, again, cobalt blue, raw umber, and white. Much more cobalt blue, as you can see. And I left a lot more outlining on these clouds to make them stand proud of everything else, to make them the closest clouds, to make them hang and float in the sky as well. Liked how that turned out. This next tier of clouds, off in the distance, I didn't leave very much outlining showing anywhere on it, really. Wanted it to stay fairly soft. And then we come closer to this realm, these clouds, and I've left a little more outlining, and of course the value change is quite different in certain areas. These clouds back here, that's yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, raw umber, cobalt blue, and white, all in varying degrees. This cobalt blue, I think some ultramarine blue if I remember correctly as well. It looks like I've got ultramarine blue in there. Raw umber. Little yellow ochre and white in a few places added in. Some alizarin crimson in places. Here I made it a little pinker, obviously alizarin crimson, white, and raw umber, and a hint of cobalt blue. I just thought it was kind of an interesting shape. It sort of repeats this and this and this a little bit, but not too intrusive. And it serves to make this area a little bit more interesting, which I think was in danger of becoming a bit of a visual hole prior to doing that. So those are the sky colors. Yeah, the foliage. These trees, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, hints of yellow ochre here and there, not much. Little bit of, there's ultramarine blue and cobalt blue, and burnt sienna and white. The trunks are burnt sienna, raw umber, and white. These trees, quite a bit, just ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, touches of yellow ochre, but very, very little. I like this dark, strong blue. It's very close to, I don't know what's the other blue here. I never use it, but it's a good sky color, dark. Anyway, I'll think of it yet. So that's the distant. I don't want too much attention paid to it. It's tree-covered shoreline off in the distance somewhere. Coming to here, same palette as these and these, just in different proportions, applied differently, slightly different technique. You'll see raw umber in there. There'll be alizarin crimson, a bit of cobalt blue, a little yellow ochre and white. And then we get more violent with those same colors over here. Not using a lot of cobalt blue. I think actually my shady spots here are more getting into the ultramarine blue and raw umber. The highlights. Well, we have mostly yellow ochre and white. Some spots there's yellow ochre and alizarin crimson and white, like just hints. And as we get a little bit darker, I've added a little bit of burnt sienna in places to the yellow ochre and white. Trying to keep it warm. Coming into the water, ultramarine blue and white and yellow ochre. Same here. Same here, but adding a little bit of burnt sienna for this band. Here and here. Coming into here, using a little more of the ultramarine blue in this general area and making it a little cooler and whiter. Now, that's been laid over what I had here. This is cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, this little spot. This is more cobalt blue with bits of yellow ochre to keep it sort of that cool glacial look, that look of glacial water. I think that keeps things interesting. And so that's cool there. Yeah, here. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, white. It's kind of amazing how many varieties of colors you can come up with a relatively limited palette. Just depends on your proportions, right? Foreground. alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue. Bits of cobalt blue here and there, like on this band of purple rocks going across here. Raw umber, more or less. And then coming down to this area and this area, we're doing almost completely away with the alizarin crimson and shifting more to a mixture of raw umber, burnt sienna, and bits of ultramarine blue and white, as always. And oh yeah, I mentioned these colors on this foliage, that distant foliage. These trees are really ultramarine blue, bit of burnt sienna, bit of yellow ochre. They're quite warm, and a bit of white. This foliage is only cobalt blue and burnt sienna and white, as is this. So we have, you know, greens, or needly greens, and leafy greens, and greens. But these greens are slightly different from these greens, and slightly different from these greens, and slightly different from these greens. Once the painting's finished, you see it pretty clearly. Sometimes when you're painting an area, it's not so clear. That's another reason to back up. And also to give your eyes a break and say, okay, I need to come back and have a fresh look at things. So I think that's describing my colors pretty much. You know, shady spots are almost all ultramarine blue, raw umber, and white. Okay, what I'll do now, I guess, is take the camera and do a few close-ups. Take a little visual tour of the painting. Well, I have very limited places right now to show the painting, but I wanted to take it out of the studio. It's a sunny day. I don't want to set it in the sun. But it gives, at least where it is now, it gives a little more of an even light. So you can see it better than you can in the studio. So let's just do a quick left to right look around at some of the stuff in here. Certainly the light as it sits now is more accurate than what you could see on my camera in the studio. I could see okay to paint, but I noticed when I reviewed my own videos that yeah, they didn't show too much about what was going on in the painting itself. Maybe this helps. There's a bit of glare from the left, but maybe that's not so bad. And of course we have our wonderful traffic as always. Yeah, hopefully that shows a little more. I'll get a few highlights there. It's not a big area, but you can see there's a good volume of loosely placed color, and not just volume, but different colors. Okay, I hear another noisy truck about to pull out right beside me here. So I'm going to say goodbye for the moment. Thanks for watching.